And we are live, episode number 1. I'm William Dyer. This is DyerConversations. Thank you for joining me on the podcast. This first podcast conversation I want to have with you guys today is this. How does a Christian respond to everything that's going on right now in America? Well, that's about the only thing I can really talk about right now because it's so pertinent. I couldn't imagine doing this first episode on anything else. I feel like anything else would be irrelevant. This is the hot topic. This is something that everybody is talking about. And I'll be honest with you, I've had to get off of social media the past couple of weeks. And most of it is just hate. I mean, right now, like everything on there is just a matter of people giving so much hate towards each other. Now, I'll respond to a few comments, some personal messages, but I think it's going to be a while before I get back. And hopefully I don't ever get back to the point where I'm just mindlessly scrolling through. It's never been that beneficial. It's just kind of a mind-numbing exercise. I think we all know that. But, man, has it gotten terrible recently. And, I think like most of us, most of you guys out there, you find yourself getting a little worked up when you start seeing people's posts and different videos and just all the stuff that's on there. It's a bit ridiculous. So how does a Christian respond to this right now? Well, I want to take us back to Christmas Eve 1914. This is a story that I heard recently on another podcast that I listened to, and I thought it was extremely applicable to how we can respond in our culture. Now, Christmas Eve 1914, it's World War I. It's the Battle of Ypres. The Germans and the British, they're fighting each other. And if you know anything about that war, you know it's a grueling war. It's really just tough. Lots of struggles and lots of death. And like I said, it's just a really, really grueling sort of a war. And one of the things that made it really hard was the trench warfare. Just fighting out of trenches. First of all, I had to dig the trenches and then having to fight in all that mud and climbing over dead bodies and the blood and just, man, I couldn't imagine going through that. And what happened on Christmas Eve is this, that the British heard the Germans singing Christmas carols. And the Germans began to call out to the British and telling them, hey, why don't you guys come on over here and join us? And of course, like anybody, I mean, they're going to be skeptical. But eventually, as history has it, they both decided to call a truce, lay down their arms, come out of their trenches, and come into no man's land. And the way it goes is that they began to eat together. They played games together. They sang Christmas carols together, and they even exchanged souvenirs and gifts to each other. And an amazing thing happened. And that's the fact that from each side, the Germans and the British, they began to recognize something about one another. And that was, this guy's just like me. He might be British or he might be German, but he's a father like I am. He's a brother. He's a son. He's a husband. He has a family back home. He has jokes he likes to tell. He has brothers over there that he's fighting with. He has stories. He has a life. He is a human. And they begin to ask themselves, like, what are we doing? What are we even fighting for? How did we get to this point? I'm not going to get into all the history of what happened in that battle, but I see this analogy of what we are doing in our culture, and that is we tend as humans to dig our trenches, to get down on our side, and we look across no man's land, and we look at the other people in their trenches, and we dehumanize them. We look at them as a them, and this is us. And we don't take the time to come out of our position to talk to people from the other side. Now, I've been wanting to start this podcast for a while now, and I've been brainstorming about what to name it and, how to kind of like market it, if you will. And I'm not really big on that. But the major concept, this vision that I have of what I'm trying to do here is having a conversation. It's not just something where I want to, get on video and be like, hey, here's what I believe, and this is why all you guys are wrong, and this is why you need to believe what I believe, or this is why these other people are stupid. It's not what I'm trying to do here. What I'm trying to do is just have a conversation. The goal of this is to have conversations in multiple different ways, and the first way is this, where I'm just having a conversation with you as if you were sitting across the table from me right now. What I would love to do is to be able to bring people on here, though, and have a chance to sit across the table from somebody who may agree with me and may not agree with me. But to be able to take myself out of my trenched position and enter into no man's land and listen to somebody else from their perspective, to learn from their successes, their failures, their experiences, their knowledge, their background, their history, to hear their cool stories, to hear the things that they've learned in their life, why they believe, why they do what they do, what they think is right and wrong. And hopefully we can all learn together. And so the point of this first podcast is I'm speaking to my Christian brothers and sisters out there about how do we respond to what's going on in our culture right now. And I know that there's different people in the Christian church who have different positions about what they think. And I'm not here to hash all that out right now. I'd love to have somebody on where we could talk about it. That would be fun. But I just want us to remember that there is a few key principles that are non-negotiable as a Christian. They're not debatable. And one of those principles is this. In the New Testament, in the book of James, the Bible tells us that we Christians are to be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I've been guilty of that. I've been guilty of doing the opposite, being slow to hear and quick to speak and quick to anger. And I'll tell you, I'm trying to make that big change. And I think that as Christians, we need, especially right now, to make that change. You see, we need to be the ones who are out front right now in our culture, showing people, not telling them what to do, but showing people, this is how you build relationships. This is how you talk to people with respect, with grace. You can speak the truth, and you can do it in a tactful manner. And we can come out of our entrenched positions, and we can listen to people and their perspectives, and we can learn from them. Because I'll be honest, and again, I've probably been guilty of this just like most others, so I'm talking to myself here. Christians have a tendency to formulate opinions that, sometimes are right. Sometimes are good opinions, but they're still opinions. We have a tendency to formulate these opinions and then speak of them as if they're gospel. Speak of them as if they are mandatory for everybody to believe and everybody to follow. And as human nature has it, what we do is we say, well, if you don't agree with me 100%, well, then you got to be on the other side. You have to be a them. I don't see reality like that. If you think reality can just be easily summed up as black and white, and I don't mean the color of people's skin. I mean, if you think any argument is simple as position A and position B, I think you have a little bit of a elementary view on how this whole thing works. Things are way more nuanced and way more complex than what you may think you can post a little picture with 2 sentences attached to it and throw it up on Facebook or Instagram and say, this is going to solve the great debate on how we need to handle this issue, whatever that issue is. Because this may come as a shock to some of you guys, but this is not the last argument that our culture is going to have with each other. Whatever it's about. George Floyd, riots, tearing down monuments, how to handle COVID, whether to wear a mask or not, whatever. Guess what? We've had arguments like that before. We're going to have arguments like that again. So the question is not, can we get rid of arguments? The question is, how do we as Christians handle ourselves when things are so tumultuous? Because people are emotional right now. Okay. That's all right. People can get emotional. It doesn't mean you have to. People can have a perspective that you may think is not based on facts, but you have to realize that is their perspective. And if you think that you can help them change that perspective to be something that's a little bit closer to reality, a little bit something that's a little bit closer to being based on facts, then the only way to do that is by being willing to listen to them and talk with them like a human being, not talk at them, not tell them that they're wrong, not defriend everybody who doesn't hold the exact position that you hold, or block them so they can't post their mean comments on your pictures that you put up. We got to be better than that. We need to lead the charge. Because the other principle that the Bible teaches us that is, again, a non-negotiable is that it says in Romans, as much as it depends on you, be at peace with all men. So the question is this: the way you're acting, whether it be on social media or out in the general public, are you acting in such a way where you are building peace? Or do you just want to tell people how dumb they are and why they need to be of your opinion? I just think that it would do us well, it would serve us well if we had a dose of humility and said, you know what? Maybe there is something that I could learn from somebody else. Maybe there is a perspective that I've never been able to have because I didn't grow up in that neighborhood, that city, with that group of friends, with those type of parents. Whatever it is that makes us different. The only way forward is for us to be those who are willing to listen to others, even when we disagree with them. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is when you have the humility to recognize that you've been wrong in the past. You're probably wrong now about a few things, and you're probably going to be wrong about things in the future because you're not omniscient. You're not omniscient now. You weren't omniscient in the past, and you're never going to be omniscient in the future, which means there's always room for you to grow, for you to learn. And that's the goal of what I'm trying to do right here in this podcast. I want to bring people on. I want to have conversations with them. Hey, if I disagree with them, so be it. Not a big deal. Listen, I've been a cop now for 4 years. Okay, I've been called every name in the book. Not a big deal. In fact, sometimes people can get really original. I find it comical. Outside I might be stoic. Inside, I'm like, that's a pretty good one. That's original. Never heard that one before. I don't get offended by them. You can't take it personally. Not a big deal. People get angry. You don't have to get emotional because other people get emotional. You need to be in control of your spirit, of who you are. You need to be above the moment and not get caught up in the hype, get caught up in the sensationalism, get caught up in all the drama of it all. Here's a challenge. What would it hurt as a Christian if you just got off of social media for a while? Novel idea, right? Think about it like this. How many people have you ever converted to your position, whether it be your position on Christianity, your political position, or any other controversial position? How many people have you ever converted by your Facebook status? Or your inspirational quote that you put on Instagram, or whatever it is, your hashtag on Twitter. Have you ever converted anybody? I haven't. Maybe somebody out there learned from some news article I put up. I don't know. What I'm saying is this. Most of the time, we're doing more damage than we are doing good on social media. And so as a Christian, my challenge for you is this. Be the change that you want to see in our culture. And the only way you're going to be that change is if you are the initiator of peace. I get it. There are people out there who are belligerent. There are people out there who are completely and utterly emotional, and they are irrational, because people, when they are completely emotional, nobody makes good decisions. But if you're thinking right now, you're listening to me and you're hearing on me talk about people who are emotional and people who are irrational, and you're only thinking about people who are rioting, maybe that's a problem. Maybe you need to realize that there's people in trenches on both sides of this fence. And then there are people who aren't even in trenches because they're like, I don't know. I don't know which side to be on. And you may think you're sitting out there and going, hey, look, here's a guy who's a Christian. He's a cop. He's white. And you've already put me in a box. That's the problem. Because I guarantee you that if you talk to me, you'd be pretty shocked. You'd be like, wow, I didn't think that you would hold that position. I didn't think that you would be open to talk about that. Yeah, believe it or not, I am. Believe it or not, I'm probably not going to hold the positions and be put in that nice little neat box that you think that I might need to be put in. The reason why is because, well, I think I've reached a point in my life where I'm actually becoming more objective, where I'm viewing myself from a little bit more of a detached position. I'm able to detach and look at my thoughts and my beliefs and just constantly challenge them. I mean, what's wrong with that? Shouldn't we be, as Christians, the sort of people who are beacons of truth? Isn't that the sort of people we're supposed to be? And so we're going to be those people. Then we have to constantly search for truth, investigate things, look at the facts, hear things from other people's perspectives, be willing to challenge the things that we have long held true. Maybe we were right about whatever opinion or thought that we had. Maybe we were wrong, though. The only way you're going to know that is when you are willing to lay down your arms, come out of your trench, and talk to people who differ from you and who have a different background and a different history than you have. Because I can tell you what right now, you're never going to get somebody to understand your position unless you're first willing to try to understand theirs. So my challenge to you in this first episode is be the change that you want to see in the culture. Be a leader in that. Stop getting on social media and telling everybody why they're dumb, or why this needs to happen, or why, the government just needs to come in and crack down, or these people just need to go home. They need to stop telling everybody what they need to do. Be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. Let other people get angry. You keep control of yourself. You, as much as it depends on you, you be the one who is trying to establish peace. Lead the way by not being caught up in the hype and the drama of it all. We're going to have to figure it out some way or another, or this whole thing's going to burn to the ground. And I don't just mean literally what's happening in certain cities. Proverbially, our country is going to go to the wayside if we can't figure out how to talk to one another again. And as a Christian, I believe we need to be the ones who are leaders in that. Hey, look, if you liked what I'm kind of putting out here, then I would encourage you, hit the subscribe button so that way you don't miss future episodes. I'm going to put up a link to a kind of a mini sermon I did for recent high school and college graduates, just kind of a charge to them on how to keep their faith now that they're going out and, getting on their own. So make sure you click on that link and listen to that as well. Share it with somebody if you know that they're a graduate. And come check out the next episodes. Thanks for coming. I'll see you next time.